sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS.
Welcome to number 5 of a series of podcasts on how to sell the No BS way. We first talked about pre-call plan, then we talked about how buyers can screw you, then we talked about some mindsets that were necessary, and now we're going to talk about managing expectations. Managing expectations is crucially important. Somebody told me a while ago that the number one reason that relationships don't work out or don't end up working out is because somebody didn't manage somebody else's expectations. Well, I'm trying to think of another reason why a relationship didn't work out well if all parties are alive, other than not managing expectations. But anyway, the statistic's 99%, so it must be that. Maybe I'm just not creative enough to think of another way. So this is absolutely true in sales. How do you manage people's expectations? Because here's the problem. Let's think about this. Think about yourself. You are a salesperson, right? Shouldn't be hard. You're a salesperson. And all of a sudden you figure out you've got a meeting with your ideal prospect and you're in their lobby right now. How much time do you think you need to sell them? A lot of people say, half an hour to an hour. And who would you hope would do most of the talking? And most of the time when I ask people this, they say, the prospect. And how would you hope the meeting would end? And any decent salesperson says, shit, they give me a check and sign my contract and get the hell out of the way, right? Make the sale, move on. So then I ask you to put on your owner's hat. You're busy. There's a salesman in the lobby. Guy says he's got a meeting with you. You're not sure what it's about. How much time you got on your calendar for him? Most people say 5 minutes. And who would you hope would do most of the talking? Most owners, my guess is you're thinking to yourself too, the sales guy. And then how would you hope it would end? And the answer there is obviously most owners would say that they leave their information, including pricing, give me some free consulting, and get the hell out of my office. So if you know that, and again, those are extremes, right? But if you know that many sales calls are that way from the beginning, we've got this disconnect between buyer and seller. And if we don't do something, we as salespeople, or quite frankly, the owners do something to manage expectations to something different, then the salesperson's going to lose. Right? The salesperson's going to lose because, hell, we don't know. And so the point is we need to have better conversations and manage expectations up front before the sales call starts. So number one thing is, right, how much time does everybody agree to have the meeting? And maybe this is something you do on the phone before you get there, right? How much time did you set aside for the meeting? This is not to be done like on the way over there, but maybe the day before. How much time did you set aside for the meeting, Mr. Prospect? And then what were you hoping we could talk about to make this good use of your time? Right? Wouldn't you want to know that? What does the prospect hope you're going to talk about to make this good use of your time? What might they share with you? They might share with you things like, hey, this is important to me. Or what they tell you is, I want to talk about this and this. You say, okay, cool. Right? So then as opposed to stabbing in the dark. There's this thing, mutual mystification, right? Where everybody thinks they know something that the other person's looking for, and without asking, we don't know. And all we end up doing is wasting a bunch of freaking time. Mutual mystification, bad thing, not good. So let's pretend you ask them for their time, you get an agreement on that, what they want to talk about, and you say, okay, cool, we can talk about that. And then you might say, hey, I've got some things I want to ask you as well. Were you okay if I ask you about the following things? How many times have you been on a sales call and you ask a prospect, well, what's your budget, or what are you paying now, or that kind of thing? That's none of your damn business. The reality is, it's because you caught them off guard, right? Whatever. But I want you to get permission up front. Hey, listen, I'm going to learn some things from you, like what you're doing now, what's working, what's not. I want to know what you're spending right now. I want to know if there's a single reason why you might spend $1 more. What would have to happen? And I want to find out how you'd make a decision to change. Are you okay if we talk about those things? Right? Getting permission to ask about those things. No hidden agenda. I'm laying out the big picture things that I need to learn. And then we got to figure out, how's this going to end? Why are we meeting like this? How's this going to end, right? We need to be getting yeses or nos to something. Every time you have a sales call, you need to establish that there need to be yeses or nos. We're supposed to be calling on decision makers, and so their job is to make decisions, right? So set up at the beginning where you say, let's figure this out, right? If either of us aren't comfortable, with what we're hearing or think it's a good idea to work together, let's just call it a no. But on the other hand, let's pretend you do like what you hear and I like what I'm hearing. And we decide that, hey, this does make sense. I mean, what would you, Mr. Prospect, think would be a reasonable next step, right? Learn at the end what they think a reasonable next step would be. By the way, it might be better than your idea. But if you remember back a couple of episodes ago, we talked about what's your ideal outcome for a sales call. Can you see how this would be helpful to know what your ideal outcome is? Because suppose they say, well, we'll consider it or we'll do whatever. And you say, well, typically, we're deciding whether or not it makes sense for you to hire us to do this or to do a study, or you write us a check for a small thing, or whether or not we decide to get together with other people in your company. Get an agreement for what you're going to figure out, yes or no, by the end of the call. This is it's amazing, right? It's like, holy shit, this is amazing. Why don't we do it more often? And by the way, it feels very awkward if you're not used to doing it. It feels like it takes forever to get through this list of questions, this agreement. And this has got to be a dialogue, not a monologue. It's got to be we're actually engaging and you're asking questions. You're waiting for the response to see whether you move forward or not. We can't just will these things into being. We've got to ask our way through these things, right? Just like our mindset, ask, don't tell anyway. But lay out your expectations so that everybody knows from the beginning. And the last thing is your biggest fear. Where's the place where you think this deal is going to go sideways? And maybe it's something like something you want to share with your prospect. My biggest fear is that we're a small company and you're a giant company and you could never see yourself working with a small company like ours. Or my biggest fear is you're working with somebody that you love or that you're connected with in some way, and there's no way you could fire them, and therefore I'm wasting your time, right? Or my biggest fear is you're hoping we're going to be cheaper, and if that's not the case, because we're not going to be the cheapest, if we're not going to be the cheapest, let's talk about that now. My biggest fear. So manage people's expectations at the beginning of a meeting. Make sure that they understand. Make sure you're all on the same page. This is where we begin to get 50% control. By getting an agreement like this, we agree to use our process, not their process. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales School Podcast. How about leave a review for this podcast on iTunes? Take a picture of that review and send it to me, and I'll give you a great gift, one you'll like and appreciate, even a choice of gifts. Send it to walker@walkermckay.com. Write a review, give me 5 stars, take a picture of it and send it to me. And I'll get in touch with you and we'll hook you up with a nice gift. Thank you very much. Walker McKay, over and out.
Thanks for listening to No BS Sales School Podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School Podcast.